Today, we are discussing the very disturbing case of Marcus Wesson. Marcus was born on August 22, 1946. He is the oldest of 4 children. His parents are Benjamin and Carrie Wesson, and he was born and lived in Kansas. It was stated that his father was an alcoholic and a child abuser, and his mother was a very religious woman. His father left the family and his mother moved him and his siblings to California. Shortly after moving to California, Marcus dropped out of high school and joined the Army for 2 years. 3 years later, he started dating Rosemary and he moved in with her and her children. They were in a relationship for about 3 years when Rosemary gave birth to their son in 1971. Marcus started sexually abusing Rosemary's 8-year-old daughter Elizabeth and began to tell her that they were meant to be together.
I just turned 8.
Did it feel to you like you were married?
I
Did it feel
believed
special?
him. Yeah, I did. I believed him. I believed everything he said.
Why do you think you believed him so wholeheartedly?
I guess because he paid attention to me, and he always told me that I was special, that the Lord chose me to be his wife.
So he had a makeshift wedding. When she turned 15, he made it official and married her.
By 14, Elizabeth was pregnant, and by 26, she had given birth 11 times, a nascent flock for a deranged Messiah.
She was pregnant every year for 10 years. To make matters even worse, they didn't only care for their 10 children, but they took on the responsibility of 7 more. Because Elizabeth's sister left her 7 children in their care, because she had learned they were being molested and felt she was unable to care for them. Marcus never had a job and the family was living off of welfare. He also dumpster dived sometimes to feed his family. Their living conditions were not any better. They lived in rundown shacks, school buses, boats, and vacant houses. Due to him not claiming the boat as an asset, he was sent to jail for welfare fraud and perjury in 1990. How was Elizabeth and Marcus surviving? He had his adult children take care of him. They were working and had to give him their entire paychecks. Unfortunately, Elizabeth stayed with Marcus and allowed him to take control of her and the children. They never went to school. Marcus took it upon himself to homeschool. But not just regular homeschooling went on. He corrupted their minds with his Bible, the Bible he wrote.
He wrote his own Bible.
He wrote his own Bible.
Yeah, and it did not get published, This Bible is writing about, Jesus Christ being a vampire.
Jesus Christ was a vampire?
Yeah, that was his theory because he shed his blood for us, so therefore we need his blood to be saved. And in his mind, it was like Jesus Christ is the real vampire.
Here's a few teachings from the Bible. Jesus Christ was a vampire. Marcus is God and he is to be referred to by Master or Lord.
In a religious sense. Did he think he was a deity of some sort?
Yes,
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
he said that if you see Jesus Christ, if you see God, you see me.
In fact, he was God. That's just the way it was.
The girls were going to marry Marcus someday, and the girls were not allowed to talk to their brothers, other men, or their own mother.
I truly believed he was God until I was 19.
And this was a brutal God.
And the devil wore a badge and a blue uniform. If they didn't follow the rules, they would be punished and beaten. These punishments could last for up to 30 days.
Into weeks, into months.
A 30-day punishment involved 21 hits on your person, and then that's 1 in the morning, then 1 in the afternoon, and 1 before you go to bed. Now imagine getting that for 30 days straight.
You had to remind him in the morning
when you wake up.
You have to remind him that he's going to beat you?
Yeah, you would have to remind him, just ask him, can I have my spank now, if we would call it.
Some of them also said they were beaten with baseball bats and cable wires.
He found out and ripped the cable wire out of the wall and had me strip naked in 15-20 minutes straight, head to toe, until I
Beat you with a cable?
Yeah, like a whip.
He would like beat me until I had welts, like actual stripes.
All of this has been really alarming, but it gets worse. He didn't just abuse them mentally, but physically and sexually. He impregnated 2 of his daughters and 3 of his nieces.
The Tangled family tree of 57-year-old Marcus Wesson includes his wife, their 11 children, plus 7 more he fathered with his own daughters and nieces.
Altogether, he had 18 children between the 7 women. This family endured so much, but he continued the trauma and manipulation.
It was March 12, 2004, West Hammond Avenue in Fresno.
Get in there! He's doing something to the kids!
A few family members decided enough was enough, and they went to confront Marcus at his home because they wanted him to release the children he had in his custody. Due to all the yelling and screaming, a neighbor called the Fresno police for help, but the police that arrived were not prepared for what was to happen. They believed they were going to help this family for a child custody issue, but Ruby, Marcus' wife, ran out saying they are all gone.
Fresno Police Department, keep your hands where I can see them.
And in turn, a standoff took place that lasted 80 minutes. When the gunfire ended and they were able to go inside of the home, 2 of Marcus's daughters and 7 of their children were murdered.
9 dead, all children, all shot once in the head.
The cause of death is gunshot wounds.
No, the police didn't shoot them. Each person was shot through one of their eyes and their bodies were stacked on top of each other.
Gruesome discovery inside a back bedroom.
As a police chief, it's something you hope would never occur, ever.
Walking out of his home with blood stains on his shirt.
It hurt so bad that somebody would do something like this. It's terrible.
Also in another room were 10 antique coffins.
In terms of the caskets, we don't know what the intent was.
It is believed that Marcus ran his family as a cult, and he is very similar to Charles Manson.
Who turned flower children into random killers. Marcus Wesson was all of this and more.
Marcus Wesson will be charged with 9 counts of Penal Code Section 187, murder.
Marcus had the audacity to blame one of his daughters for the shooting, saying she shot them all and then killed herself. How was he able to argue this? The murder weapon had her DNA and also was found by her body. Marcus didn't have any gun residue on him, and the daughter he blamed for the shooting, her body was on top of the pile. The jury was unable to find him guilty of the mass shooting, but he was convicted of murder due to the jury believing he persuaded his children into a suicide pact thanks to his wife and a few of his children. He also was found guilty of 14 counts of forcible rape, sexual molestation, and was sentenced to death on June 27, 2005. As of today, Marcus is 75 years old, and it is likely that he will not face execution. In the state of California, only 13 people have been executed. Some of the Wesson family appeared on the Dr. Phil show in 2009. Of course, they were hesitant to go on the show because they felt they would be judged and looked at differently. But after the show, they received a lot of good feedback and thanks for telling their stories. They expressed how they were trying to build relationships with each other because even though they all grew up in the same house, they were not able to talk to one another. And this was the first time they heard what each of them went through and the pain they suffered.
I looked up to my dad. I thought he was an awesome guy. Now, here I am, just talking about how bad he is. It just sucks because he is,
The boys stated they would see the girls go into Marcus's bedroom and thought it was disturbing and figured something was going on, but because they looked up to their dad and feared him due to his actions and threats, they bypassed it. Elizabeth was asked, "How do you feel hearing them talk about what they suffered?" And she said, "It hurts. I know that Marcus used to beat them viciously, but I always used to walk past the door, walk back and forth, and then I would go in there and stop him most of the time." I hope the Wesson family have gotten the help they need as well as support and love. They lived such a traumatic life and they deserve a better one.